Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast brought to you by RaceForThePrize.com. Kansas picks Sunday afternoon. Who do we like? Who are going to be our hogs or dominators? Who are the value drivers that we are looking at? We've got Christopher Bell on the pole. We know that he has struggled with luck lately. The car is fast. The JGR Toyotas are fast. If we just go purely on practice speeds, which I would not suggest that you do, then Bell isn't quite the fastest of the JGR Toyotas. Obviously, Hamlin's top of my list, and then it's pretty even for the other three. Looked like Truex had a little bit of speed fall off, but I wouldn't overreact to that. Hamlin clearly is and always is the guy for JGR. Bell's going to have an opportunity to lead laps early. I don't think that he sticks around too long, especially when you've got Kyle Larson right there. But if you want to take Bell up front and hope that he doesn't have bad luck and leads a significant amount early, then great. I probably won't go there. Ross Chastain had a significant amount of fall off. This car just hasn't been that fast this season. I'm not really interested. Now, one thing that you could do in the end, because he's aggressive and does seem to have enough short run speed, that maybe he can make it work at the end, but he has to be able to stay there throughout the entire race. And we expect Hamlin to get up there, Larson to get up there, Byron to work his way up there. And I just don't see the value in going to Chastain. Gregson, along with all of the Fords, do not have speed this weekend. Yes, they flashed some speed, SHR in qualifying, but if you look at the lap by lap data and look at the practice speeds, you'll see that it's really not all that encouraging. And you can get your access May package, $30. Get the sheets at racefortheprice.com. Simply Venmo, PayPal, Cash App some money over to me. I'll give you the sheets, and you can look at the data for yourself and decide. And you'll clearly see that the Fords don't have speed and very discouraging for them. But that's just where we stand. Like, they're not turds, but they clearly are not going to compete with the Toyotas or the top two Hendrick cars. Kyle Larson, obviously, you look at what he's done this season. You look at what he has done at Kansas in the past. He's going to be starting close to the front. He's going to have a really good opportunity to control this race from the beginning. Just needs to stay up there, stay out of trouble, have a good day on pit road. I don't think anything has changed. Surprised by the speed that Kyle Busch has, an 8,900. If he can stay up front all day, scrape off some fast laps, maybe he does have an opportunity to lead laps. Overall, his pit crew was pretty good on average last week, and I think pit crews are going to be the deciding factor. You can check out the pit data at racefortheprize.com or with the spreadsheets. I've got all that pit data for you. He had some weak stops, but then they averaged out some pretty good stops in the final runs at Dover or final pit stops. The car seems to have enough speed to stay up front. As long as he doesn't flub the restarts, I'm really surprised. But at 8,900, he could possibly work. But again, I think I probably am going to chase place differential. And in terms of getting those fast laps that I'll probably spend up. But he's not completely off the board. And you could say the same thing for Ty Gibbs. He's got enough speed to hang in there. Maybe he cycles to the lead at some point. Maybe he can scrape off enough fast laps, get that solid finish at the end that he works. But again, I really would much rather get guaranteed fast laps led from my hog like a Larson or a Hamlin, and then chase some place differential with my 3 and 4, or in my 5. Ford no speed. And I hate to just quickly write these guys off, but if you look at the information, again, McDowell's halfway decent in practice, and we know that McDowell's just had some bad luck and has had some speed, but he's just starting too close to the front. I just can't see getting there. You need a lot of things to go right for this play to work. Chase Elliott has probably a top 5 car from what I can see, and maybe they make some tuning on it and they're able to boost it up a little bit during the race. But you know what? Hamlin's going to tune. Larson's going to tune. I want to completely write him off. He does give you a little bit of savings. He can get you a little bit of place differential. Not at the top of my list, but he is in play. I think probably rather chase that than Kyle Busch. But again, not at the top of my list. Again, the Fords don't have any speed. They qualify too close to the front. they can hang in this race. And again, a lot comes down to these restarts, hanging in the race. And we do expect drivers to finish a little bit better than where they run. But these guys are simply just starting too close to the front. And we can say, oh, well, you can finish better than where you run. So Logano runs in 15th and then gets a boost and maybe finishes 7th at best, 6th at best. And that's great. But you can say the same for drivers starting in the back that run around 20th to 15th and they get a boost at the end. And they just simply have more access to place differential points. That's where I'm going. Same thing for Buescher. Not a lot of speed, but again, they did pretty well in qualifying. Again, we do have seen RFK and the Fords finish better than where they run, but I just would rather chase place differential. Truex, we've already talked about that. Hamlin, jam him in. Reddick, jam him in. So Larson, Hamlin, Reddick, and these have been the fastest cars at Kansas. These have been the fastest cars at the intermediate tracks this season. Like getting to all three of those drivers as my 1 and 2 hogs or dominators. Dylan and Barry are the Galaxy Brain value plays that if they hit in the end, people are like, what? But I wouldn't completely write them off, but they're not the place that I really want to go. Dylan has been good at this track in the past, but I don't lean on track history too much. The car has kind of been struggling this season. Clearly, Kyle Busch has speed, so they have an idea of what they're doing. He was able to qualify well. I wouldn't completely take these guys off your board because I know they aren't quite giving you the place differential. So most people are going to say, nah, I'm not going to go with it. And it's Austin Dillon or it's Josh Berry. But they should be able to hang in the top 15, the top 20 all day. They're going to need that break at the end on the restarts after the multiple cautions because of the tire rubs. They need a clean day on pit road. And Dillon just hasn't been clean this season. They've been making mistakes. Josh Berry, issues on pit road, issues during the race. I'm, you want to try to be unique and cute, you can go to them as value picks. But for me, again, I have no problem following the herd and chasing place differential. Bowman has his typical 15th place car. Not interested. Jimmy Johnson going nowhere. So then we start to look at the Le Mans class, the LM class, and we look at these value drivers and see who can finish the best in the C class, whatever you want to classify them as. Corey Heim doesn't really surprise me. It's everything we said all week. This is a 25th, maybe sometimes a 20th place race car that Eric Jones can wheel into the top 15. Heim's just not going to be capable of doing that. And when we stack him up against the other drivers in this class, he's not really going to be the top. He's probably going to finish around the middle of that pack. Now, he could remain on the lead lap and have the opportunity to get that boost at the end. But again, when I compare him to these other drivers, I don't think he necessarily gets that boost at the end. And also, he's starting 20th. 21st for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., probably going to be a little too close to the front for most. But 21st may just work, and I'll explain why. Oh, here comes this Stenhouse Homer talk again. All right. So he has enough speed. He's shown speed at Texas. They made improvements at Dover. I know we didn't get the finishes that we were expecting because of issues, but this is a 20th place race car. It will be on the lead lap. It will be dicing it up and should finish towards the top of the Lemons class. The thing that you like about Stenhouse is if we are banking on those restarts and we're maybe leaning on him finding grooves and being aggressive, is that he did have short run speed. So if it comes down to, I need you to get that extra boost and finish a little bit better than where you run, then it makes a lot of sense because he probably won't run towards the top because he doesn't quite have the long run speed. But if we start resetting the field because of cautions and we need that short run speed, Stenhouse has it, which makes him as one of the guys that you're going to consider in the Lemons class. The problem is, again, we talk about that speed. You see here mowers in the background. Sorry, nothing I can do. It's springtime in Ohio. You're just going to have to deal with it. Maybe it's not that loud. But when we talk about these short runs, he can get that boost when we want to finish better. Now, again, the caveat that we discussed earlier this week is, all right, you can win the class, but we also have to operate that we need place differential, and he is going to be lacking there. So we have to downgrade him a little bit. Hocevar, I think that these speeds are inflated. The reason why I don't like these speeds is if we are to pull up all the specific laps and look at the specific times that Hocevar ran these laps, you'll see that he went out at the very beginning of practice and the arc of rubber was on the track, and I think it made him look a little bit faster. Other drivers went out later. Other drivers were in Group B. I don't believe he's as fast as the speeds show us. And so starting 22nd, I don't believe he's going to be the class of the field in the Lemons. Bubba and the 2311 have been great here. If you can afford him at 9,500, I think it's a fine play. He's got to avoid the mistakes, but this is a track that he has won at. He feels comfortable at, and they have a really good set. 2311 won with Kurt. They've won with Reddick. They've won with Bubba, and he is on the board if you can fit him in, right? If we got two hog dominators in Hamlin and Larson, he's not really giving us that much savings, though, at 9,500. He is going to be somebody that we target, though, because at 5.9 return, and that's only getting to 7th place. He could get to 5th place. He's probably going to scrape off some fast laps. He is on the board. I don't think the Optimizer is going there. Zane Smith doesn't have the speed. So, again, we're looking at the Lemons class. Who can finish the best amongst this class, but also gain place differential? And I don't think he's going to be at the top of the pack in the Lemons. And he doesn't give you the place differential. I like Gilliland, but he doesn't quite give us as much place differential as we want. We do get a lot of savings at 5,200. He has the speed that we have grown accustomed to seeing. He should be close to the top of that pack when we're talking about Stenhouse, when we're talking about LaJoy, when we're talking about Nemechek. Simply the problem with him is he's not quite as deep, but he is right there at 5,200, and he could be the 6th value pick in. Blaney, the Fords do not have speed. Blaney was a guy I liked a lot during this week at 8,600. Maybe they tune on it. Maybe they get it better. This hasn't necessarily been one of his best racetracks. He is significantly cheaper than Bubba, but he doesn't have anywhere near the speed of Bubba. And I would expect the field probably to chase him a little bit. Maybe I'm overreacting to practice a little. But let's say he finishes 10th, because it's not going to be necessarily easy. But he should run around 15th, and he could have some good restarts at the end. And so I don't want to completely abandon a driver that I liked earlier this week, who overall has run pretty well. But man, did the Fords just not show up this week. Suarez, another example of a guy finishing a lot better than where he runs. Not really been good in qualifying lately. The speed's probably just enough that we can be tempted. And, we've seen, like at Texas, he finished in the top 5, didn't deserve it. We're going to get restarts at the end at 7,200. Did kind of a similar situation at Dover last week. Fights throughout the entire race, and hey, maybe you got to go to Suarez on Cinco de Mayo. Blaney's alive, and maybe it's good they didn't practice well, because that probably will boost his ownership to the roof. Same thing for Suarez, but they definitely are going to be the guys that you're considering as you're rounding out your lineups, your 5th or 6th, well, your 5th, maybe 4th pick. So again, we go back to the Lemons class. LaJoy has the speed to be at the top of the Lemons class and stay on the lead lap, maybe get some extra spots at the end and finish better than 21st. I got him at 21st, which I think is pretty conservative. He can grab a couple more spots based on the nature of racing in Kansas. Next guy would be Nemechek, also going to be running around the top of the middle of that class. Don't have him better than LaJoy, don't have him better than Stenhouse, but he should be able to get past a Heim, a Hocevar, a Zane Smith, and be right there around 22nd, 23rd, maybe get a boost at the end. Did it last week at Dover. He's starting deep enough that he's going to be a decent point per dollar play. Kozlowski I like a lot, just has been struggling all season in qualifying. He said that before the race during an interview, and practice meets were actually better. One of the things that I did really like about Brad Keselowski this week, which we haven't seen before, is that he actually went out and ran a significant set of laps before bringing it in. It wasn't like, 3 laps, we need to change something. 3 laps, we need to change something. Went out, did a 10-lapper, came out, did another 10-lapper, and all the speed, obviously on older tires, wasn't great, but it was pretty consistent. And again, when we talk about a Kansas race where you got to be good at pit road, you got to work the strategy. That's right up Brett Keselowski's alley. Very good on restarts. Had a strong race here last fall. Burton's a no. Ford no speed. Wood sucks. I just write up. Hey, it's a great analysis. Priest, no, just struggling, and the Ford's struggling. And then if you just want to absolutely go deep, then fine. You consider a Hemrick, a Hill, a Haley. Among those, I wouldn't mind Haley based on what he has done in the past at this track. What, 3 or 4? I know those were in colored cars, but the speed wasn't quite terrible, and he is starting 35th. Let's be honest. $5,100 starting 35th. And we're looking in that Lemons class, and we're looking at 2 categories, right? Who's the best among the class? I wouldn't say Haley's the best, but he is the middle of that class. Could be right there, fighting with the cars that are 1 lap down to maximize finishing position, and he could dice it up, get up there a little bit further than where we expect. At 27th, that's not going to work, but he could get to 25 and then boost a little bit at the end. Attrition boost, you throw that in, doesn't have a mechanical failure, goes out there and methodically races with Rick Ware. He is among the value that I am considering. So LaJoy, Nemechek, Haley, and then obviously Byron's the chalk. And then Herbst and Kraus are just straight. I couldn't go there. I would much rather go to Haley. I'd rather go to Hill and Hemrick than I would to go to Herbst or Kraus. So let's play around with some optimal lineups, just constructing things real quick. And so that was from earlier in the week. Obviously, Byron is going to be the chalky guy that everyone wants to play. See if this opens anything up. 4,300, you can't get to Brett Keselowski anymore. We'll go with Gilliland, and we'll throw in Haley as a deep guy. Gives us the maximized savings. And then you got 6,900 to goof around with. And, we did have a triple punt last week, or a triple value last week. And given the circumstances are very similar with a chalky guy starting in the back, and then Hamlin and Larson, who we love to lead laps, I wouldn't mind, again, going with the 3 value play options. Now, under 6,000, we've got LaJoy. I'm not as bullish on Hosever. There's Haley. Stenhouse is that tricky, unique option. And I wouldn't mind it. Other than that, you really got to play around with your lap leader. Maybe you take a little bit of savings here and you boot out. So then that gets you up to 7,200. And over on 7,200, who can we play around with over here? You can get to Suarez. You can get to that super cute Austin Dillon play. You can get to the super cute Josh Berry play. That seems to be the lineup that works. Or you take out Hamlin and you go with Larson, and that gets us 7,500. And maybe you take Chris Buescher. I don't think I would go there. Can we get to, how much is Brett Keselowski? 7,700. So the only way you're getting to that is by going super crazy and saying, wild man, absolutely crazy idea. But that will get you to Brad Keselowski if you like Keselowski a lot. Hey, I think that helps out. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, it's on the screen. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Like, subscribe, share. Blessed to have you guys around. Love you guys. Trip the light fantastic.